Empire. One Championship is growing in the Western Hemisphere.
Every other property was 70 years old to 100 years old. It was NFL, it was NBA, it was the Premier League, it was F1. The only two young sports properties was actually UFC and ONE. That's a testament of how fast combat sports is growing, with UFC being 30 years old and ONE being 12 years old.
That's Chatri Sityodtong, CEO of One Championship, a true mixed martial arts competition looking to grow its foothold in the U.S. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The why and the how are part of this really interesting conversation with the self-made CEO and martial artist, Chatri Sityodtong. By the end, I was ready to start training myself. Our guest this week is Chatri Sityodtong. He is the CEO of One Championship, which is one of the largest, fastest growing MMA circuits in the world. It's broadcast globally, and they've expanded in events in the United States. Chatri, it's a pleasure having you here. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Tell me a little bit about One Championship for our listeners who are not familiar with it, and maybe what differentiates it from, say, what they would probably be accustomed to, the UFC.
Well, according to Nielsen, the combat sports industry, the global combat sports industry has really in terms of viewership and fandom and ratings. So in the West, you have the UFC, which is the giant there. And out here in the East, ONE is the dominant force. And actually, Nielsen came out with a global sports industry report 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I think. And we were actually bigger than the UFC viewership number-wise. You can just download that on Nielsen.com. But other than the fact that there are two giants in the global combat sports industry, the two giants are completely different. One Championship is 180 degrees opposite that of UFC in terms of its DNA, its approach, its philosophy. The only thing that's similar is that we both have the best championship fighters on the planet, that full stop. UFC focuses only on MMA, whereas One Championship focuses on martial arts. So we do have MMA, but we also do Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, grappling, and all the different arts. So we're the home of martial arts, if you will. Whereas UFC is much more narrow in its approach, which is just MMA. But the DNA is completely different too. I mean, UFC thrives on creating pay-per-view controversy and hatred and anger and possibly scripted drama. The fights are real, but there's drama before and after that may or may not be real, depending on who you ask. Whereas One Championship focuses on authentic martial arts. Why do parents, millions of parents all over the planet send their kids to martial arts schools? It's not to learn violence. It's to learn how to defend yourself, but also to inherit these incredible values that martial art teaches, right? Like humility and discipline and work ethic and goal setting and, ton more values that martial arts really imparts to its students. And through thousands of hours of training myself, I've been doing martial arts for over 40 years, and I still train every day to this day. And for me, I think it's given me these tremendous values, bedrock values that are foundational to success in life. You need to have grit and resilience. You need to have a warrior spirit to conquer adversity in life. You need to be able to take losses. You need to be able to have a desire for continuous self-improvement. These are all things I learned in martial arts. So you have two 800-pound gorillas in the industry globally.
Yep.
One from the East, one from the West, with a completely opposite brand ethos. Although I would argue both have the best rosters on the planet. I mean, that's pretty much widely accepted in combat sports experts around the world. And I think that's, the best way to describe it. In that Nielsen Global Sports Industry Report, there were, if you look at the top 20 players, global sports properties ranked by size, I think we were number 4 and the UFC was number 8. But what was interesting was every other property was like, 70 years old to 100 years old. It was NFL, it was NBA, it was the Premier League, it was F1. The only two young sports properties was actually UFC and ONE. So that's a testament of how fast combat sports is growing, with UFC being 30 years old and ONE being 12 years old.
Let me, for our listeners, when you mentioned West and East, what you meant was UFC in the Western world and ONE Championship, which is very popular in Asia and in the Eastern world, but growing. I want to touch on something that you brought up, which is the marketing strategy of UFC, which falls in line somewhat with WWE and these styles of marketing to the American fan. How do you think about that when I get the criticism of it, and I get the idea that you want to have a different brand, but when you're trying to connect to the American fan, how are you thinking about connecting with them?
I think fundamentally, fans around the world want to watch the very best, and it doesn't have to be about all the antics. And mind you, it's not that we don't have antics as well, but how can I say? I would say that our athletes, because they're kind of focused more on martial arts, right? They are lifelong martial artists, and they also obviously know the differentiation that ONE is about. But we try to speak to the journey of martial arts. So I'll give you an example. Backstage, I give a backstage locker room talk to the whole group of athletes every major event. And I talk about their sacrifices and their training and the years of dedication and the tears and the setbacks. And I say, you have your moment here, on the biggest stage in the world. How do you want to express, yourself, and think about everyone who supported you, your family, your friends, your team, your major coaches, your country. And that usually inspires greatness in our athletes. Of course, there are athletes who trash talk and create some drama with each other, and I don't say no. I mean, if it's organic, it's okay. But I do try to inspire our athletes to think about the journey as opposed to this one moment in time to sell ratings or whatever it is. And I truly believe American fans want to see the very best on the planet, right? I mean, look at every other sport. Okay, the sport itself is the drama. MLB, NBA, NFL. Yes, sometimes there is out of arena controversy or whatever it is, but pretty much people watch NFL because Tom Brady. Well, this is back in the Tom Brady when I was living in the U.S. Tom Brady was the best, and Patriots were the best, and you wanted to see the drama against whoever could muster up and give Patriots for a run for the money. But there's always some level of drama, but it was never, how can I say, it was never to the point of politicizing or belittling people's wives and children or religions or things that really, if you trash talk and it's focused on the sport, which I think the NBA has a code of conduct and NFL does too. That's how ONE Champions run.
Yeah.
You can say, bro, I'm gonna knock you the F out, blah 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 blah. You suck, you have no cardio. That's fine. That's the sport, right? But you shouldn't insult somebody's children and wife and say you're gonna kill them, and insult someone's religion, and there are things in which I feel are below world championship sports and below humanity, to be very frank. And the ends doesn't justify the means, right? Just because you say, but I'm trying to sell pay-per-view, that doesn't matter, because what you're doing at the end of the day is impacting society and kids and how they treat their parents and how little boys treat little girls. There's a deeper and larger responsibility that the biggest global sports properties in the world have. Whether they accept the responsibility or not is a different thing. But I think about this deeply. We're one of the world's largest sports properties, full stop, and obviously Asia's largest global sports property. My team and I think very deeply about, man, what is our impact on the world? Of course we throw amazing fights and we have we create magical memories for our fans around the world who are watching on broadcasts or at the stadiums. But beyond that, kids put up posters of our heroes in their bedroom, and what kind of values are we espousing? These are important things. For me at least, far more important than money is, what is the legacy of all of this hard work by my team and I?
I want to dip into your background just for a moment. I read a little bit about you. You didn't describe it as growing up poor, but certainly it was modest, and by American standards, it would have been way below a poverty line. But you were able to get through childhood and eventually make your way to Harvard, and then become an entrepreneur. And then here comes One Championship, and you've already mentioned that you studied the discipline of martial arts throughout your entire career. Could you kind of just take me through that background and why you're doing? Because there seems to be there's an ethos of why you wanted to do this.
As a child, I grew up in a well-to-do family in a loving home, and my parents. It was an idyllic home. It was only until my father went bankrupt, and they eventually abandoned the family, where we went from, just be very frank, the bank possessed our house and possessed the car, and my family lost everything, and it puts I think when that happens to you, it just shreds apart the family, the fabric of everything we knew about it. And my father just eventually decided to abandon the family. And so obviously at that point we were very, very despondent, with nothing. Like, it was my mother, my younger brother, myself. But rewinding, I grew up in Thailand. I started Muay Thai when I was around 13 years old, and quickly became hooked. Actually, when I was 9 years old, my father took me for the first time to Lumpini Stadium, which is the mecca of Muay Thai, and that was how my lifelong love for martial arts began. And then I was a student, competitor, teacher, coach, and now CEO. Been doing this my whole life, and I've done jiu-jitsu for about 15 years as well. Train almost every day as well in jiu-jitsu. So for me, starting One Championship is it's much more than just, hey, I'm starting a business or I'm starting a brand, or it's my greatest passion in life is martial arts. It's definitely one of the driving forces for what got me out of poverty, what got me out of, a terrible situation. It's because I had a warrior spirit. It's because I had all this training. It's because I had a different mindset, than a victim mindset. I had the fighter kind of mindset. So there are a lot of things that martial arts, gave me. So when I, eventually went to Harvard, and in the second year, my mom had to come live with me in the dorm, obviously unbeknownst to the Harvard authorities. This was how can I say, a moment that I really deeply remember when you choose to be a fighter or you choose to break, right? We obviously didn't have money for school fees, for books. It was a really, really rough time. I had to, scrounge up everything I could. I taught Muay Thai. I taught at Kaplan, these GMAT courses. I did everything I could just to make extra cash. And it's just one of these things that you watch your mother cry, and I never saw my mother cry up until that point in my life. And you realize you have to do something. And I was very fortunate to have this martial arts training that gave me that focus, that discipline, that warrior spirit to conquer adversity. And I think that is something that has always been with me throughout my whole life because of martial arts. So obviously launching One Championship many years later, it's been it's an expression of my life journey. It's an expression of who I am. It's an expression of my greatest passion in life. And obviously, martial arts was born, Asia's been the home of martial arts for 5,000 years. I feel there's a real authenticity to what One is doing by showcasing the very best world championship martial arts across all the disciplines, right? Mixed martial arts, but Muay Thai and kickboxing and grappling and boxing and whatnot. But yes, it was from a very deeply personal I'd say this is my life mission. It's not even a company for me. It's my life mission. It's my greatest passion. It's my passion, my purpose aligned. You know, on the first day that One Championship was born, it's been the mission is always, and it's still the same to this day, is to unleash real life superheroes who ignite the world with hope, strength, dreams, and inspiration. It's not about selling more pay-per-view. It's not about revenue, and maybe you can argue I should be a little bit more focused on that. But I really wrote, like, you know, and everyone in the company knows our mission is to unleash real life superheroes who ignite the world with hope, strength, dreams, and inspiration. And we do it by these incredible stories. You know, what does it take to become a world championship fighter? Man, first of all, you usually come from a very, very tough background, right? You know, either the rungs of, you know, of poverty, or, you know, a complete tragedy, or, you know, born as an orphan. A lot of crazy, incredible stories. And I feel like telling these stories really inspires our fans, and that's kind of been our DNA. It's about, yes, the fight happens, and these are the two best in the world, and, you know, one country will be rooting for another country, but it's almost like the Olympics, you know. Oftentimes I say, you know, we're the Olympics of martial arts. It's the very best on the planet from different countries, and we tell their stories, and we bring honor and glory. You know, but those athletes are athletes. When they win a world title, they bring honor and glory to their country, very much like the Olympic gold medal. If you go to my Instagram, you can see I've one of the when China won its first world title in one. Man, 10,000 people showed up and held a parade. It was crazy. You can see the video on my Instagram. So, you know, that's an Olympic gold moment. The central government of China came out and said, yes, we finally won a world title in one championship. It was plastered all of the news, online, offline. It was a huge, huge story. We actually ended up trending #1, or our world champion did, during his fight and after his fight, trending #1 on social media in the entire country of 1.3 billion people, on Douyin, Kuaishou, and Weibo. You know, it was a massive, massive moment for the country of China. So that's kind of like, yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, I'm trying to condense everything because I know we have another 10 minutes, whatever it is, but yeah, that's in a nutshell.
Future Sport is a presentation of Empire Media, a B2B and B2C podcast and digital company dedicated to making your business or brand be heard. Internal or external content creation that will have a lasting impact on your strategy, consulting, creation, and production, all to help you effectively communicate your message in any marketplace. Learn more at ampiremedia.com, AMPIRE media.com. Let's continue our conversation with Chatri Sityodtong, who is the CEO of One Championship. This podcast focuses a lot on technology. Can you kind of give me a sense of where technology plays, probably and most likely in the presentation of One Championship to fans?
As I said earlier, you know, in that Nielsen industry global industry report on the sports industry, UFC and One were the youngest properties by far on that list. And I think we're the lucky beneficiaries of technology. You see, how have we been able to scale globally and be as large as we are? It's because of the digital economy. To be very frank, the entire world is connected now in a way that if you put out a video and people love it, it goes viral all over the world. You have a show, you know, primetime in America, primetime in Asia, show shot out of Thailand. It garners millions of viewers who happen to love that martial art or happen to love that athlete or that story or whatever it is. Never has in history has the world been this connected, and it's technology. So we do have a engineering team out of India. We view technology as an accelerant, as a backbone of everything we do as a content producer. Obviously, our live events rely very heavily on technology, but we think beyond that. We think about, you know, virtual reality. We think about, we started with Facebook with our virtual reality, you know, our actually events in virtual reality. I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, when Oculus first came out, we were the first major sports property to be on Oculus, on Meta Horizon. So all of that is we're lucky beneficiaries of technology, whether it's social media, whether it's YouTube, digital media. whether it's social listening tools, whether it's being able to slice and dice data from our data analytics department around the world, even to simply e-commerce, selling our merch around the world. Right, the world is connected in a way that it's never before, and it's because of technology.
Okay, last thing. We started this conversation by mentioning that there are going to be an expansion of events into the United States. You've grown exponentially in Asia. You have events this fall in Denver and Atlanta. What do you want to tell fans in America about what they would see in a live event at One Championship?
First of all, you're going to see the world's very best martial arts on the planet, world champions across every discipline. You're going to see spectacular striking you've never seen before in the U.S. The U.S. is very wrestling heavy. There's a wrestling, the D1 wrestling culture in America. I would say they have outstanding world-class wrestlers in America, but not necessarily world-class strikers. Whereas out here in Asia, whether it's Kung Fu or Karate or Taekwondo or Muay Thai, the striking is just unbelievable, the different level. So I think, our last Denver event sold out, way before the actual event. And the American fans loved it. And we actually hit record high viewership on Amazon. And I think the American fans love seeing something completely different, than what exists in the U.S. market. The U.S. market is very MMA heavy and very controversy, hatred, anger heavy, whatever you want to say. I think people really appreciate that there's another global giant that is 180 degrees opposite of what exists in the U.S., and yet you get to see the very best on the planet. So I think that's the first and foremost, is you get to see the best on the planet, unbelievable fights. The card we've already announced, a few fights we've announced for Denver, I think we're already half sold out, and we've only been on sale for a week or something like that. And Denver isn't until another 5 months. So I think it's definitely going to sell out in the next, month or so, maybe before.
The event takes place September 6th in Denver, and then you'll be in Atlanta, Georgia on November 8th. Chatri Sityodtong is the CEO of One Championship. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Take care.
That will do it for this episode. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein.